Hi all, this is Vanessa Love and this is my channel about the mental health field and related topics. So this is about the mental health field, but before I get into it, my earrings are Romeo and Juliet from 1996. Lots of people recognize that it is Leonardo DiCaprio, but cannot place that is Claire Danes. So they're like, that's not Titanic. Like, no. But that is Leonardo DiCaprio. It's actually a company that's owned by a PhD, like in psychology. She makes earrings too. I'm not sponsored, so I'm not going to mention her, but like she's definitely hit on some like very like peak millennial like stuff. And other, like just a bunch of other things that I'm just like, oh yeah, I think she just like released a Bluey line, so fun, yay. Anyway, so there's that. Okay, I plan all these out like just kind of like in my head, and then I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, I'm gonna write it down, and then I write it down and I look at it, and then I'm like, what was I gonna say? Shit. Anyway, so I will try to kind of go along with the thought process that I think I had when I thought of this video. Okay, so, institutionalizing. Huge deal, obviously. Now, the only thing that I know currently about like long-term institutionalization is that for violent criminals who have committed a crime, but also have things like psychosis and schizophrenia, they have an institution specifically for those people. Sometimes, like, a person is evaluated by the court, by a psychologist, and they like, the psychologist understands that they cannot fully evaluate, like, the consensus of reality that is there. People fake it, yeah, okay. Is this a place you want to be in? Absolutely fucking not. Maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, there was a controversy at the particular place in Connecticut that holds the violent, but also like people with mental illness who need to be, like significant chronic mental illness, were like caught to be like kicking someone, like kicking one of the like prisoners, patient prisoner there. So like, it's not like these places are like, oh, well, it's Club Med, you just have to pretend, to take meds. People, listen, when I worked at the psych hospital, people would come in all the time and be like, I have a court case tomorrow, I'm gonna hide out here. Okay, but like, also, how often do you have to do that until like this is no longer an acceptable way for you to like prolong and delay what's actually going to happen? You're probably gonna, like, there's no long-term facilities. They don't want you there for a long time because they make more money if you are out within 3 days. If you're out within a day, they make more money. So, okay. So they don't want to do it. It's also just not something that the system is developed for anymore. Yes, in the past, there was this famous actress, and it was she lived in Connecticut too, and I think she went to like the Institute of Living or something that's in Connecticut. She was she had a bipolar episode. She was like pretending she wasn't trying to do something she was definitely trying to do while standing on like the ledge in New York, of her apartment, I think. So she had a daughter. The daughter in like, let's say it's like mid 1950s, possibly early 1960s. She has a daughter. The daughter has Down syndrome. They take the daughter away from her and institutionalize her for almost all of her life. I think finally at like a certain age, they were both like able to reunite, but that's what was typical. oh, we can't manage with this thing, with this disorder. The person was not a thing. The disorder was, obviously. Okay. As long as we're on the same page here. We can't deal with this thing. We're just gonna, I don't know, institutionalize the person with the thing for as long as we can. Years and years and years and years, you know. And I think even like the person who wrote Girl Interrupted stayed for a long time for a bipolar, like, episode. Which, like, we wouldn't even, like, you know, you wouldn't even think of now. It's like, oh, okay, she stabilized on some meds and went home. Typical. You know, like, it wouldn't be the way that it was back then. Yeah, especially not as strict. Like, sometimes I hear things and I'm like, so we just, like, really tried to, like, make everyone, like, infantile. Okay. You know, like, not admit that anyone had, like, needs. Anyway. So, yes, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, you can definitely be institutionalized for an indeterminate amount of time, and I guess as long as your family, maybe the state was paying for it. I have no idea who was paying for these things, but as long as there was money, that was it. So, Reagan. Yeah, you probably don't know his legacy. I totally get it. It's just one of the presidents. But Reagan defunded the institutions and did, you know, a lot of background stuff, researching and investigating a lot of these places. I know the history of like 2 of the places in Connecticut. I know that there was like an issue. I don't even know if there was an issue with the 3rd, but I could tell you some of the stuff that's currently happening with a 3rd place. Okay, so we'll go through. So he defunded these institutions, and I think, and we can debate this. I think that was a good idea. So mid-90s, this finally took effect. Places started closing. The 2 that, like, you know, I guess I kind of grew up with, that I'm very familiar with is the Seaside Sanitarium or Sanatorium in Waterford, Connecticut. There is some debate as to whether or not that's going to be a state park. It might be a state park now. It's a beautiful place. Once you ignore the buildings, it's a beautiful place. Oh my gosh, the beaches are wonderful. I used to go there all the time. Like, it's like, as soon as I'm like close down the street, I'm like, no, we're going to this place. And like, no cell signal, like, we're just in the water, just enjoying ourselves. Yeah. I know in the past, like, I've just like brought like, I have my routine. Go to the Chinese food place, get some Chinese food, bring it to the beach, just swim around, enjoy my friends. We're all good. So our lives. So Seaside Sanitarium and Norwich State Hospital. You might be familiar with Norwich State Hospital because it was featured on Ghost Hunters. Lots of people think that it's really interesting, think that there's a lot of ghosts there. I have my theories. I'll kind of share them. And then also I want to share about Fairfield Hills. So Seaside Sanitarium started out tuberculosis unit. Eugene O'Neill's, he's a playwright, by the way, if you're unfamiliar. His little brother goes to the Seaside. The Eugene O'Neill, oh my gosh, camp theater is down the street from Seaside Sanitarium. So, about, I want to say 1995 it closed. There's still a group home on the property technically, and then there so there's still a group home on the property. All of the buildings apparently have their issues. I've talked to some of the people who have not worked there, but like were the park um, park officers who were there. Um, sometimes, it's helpful to walk around with my art supplies because it looks like I'm very official. So yeah, they would just tell me things all the time. I think they were just lonely, but like they would just tell me things all the time and be like, "Oh, well, that one has so much water damage in the basement because it keeps flooding." And it's like, "Oh, okay." And one of the buildings did look like it was trying to be renovated, and it's so funny because like I don't know how many pictures I have of this thing, but someone like who was working on the building left their sweatshirt and like a soda inside one of the buildings. I don't think it's moved. I know it hasn't moved. I've taken pictures of this every time I've seen it and been like, but what is going on here? So unfortunately, they did find in their investigation that there were acts of abuse done there. So like it is not a great history there. Other than the buildings being creepy, it doesn't seem like it is haunted. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm spiritual. Sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe. And then other times I'm like, I don't think it is. I don't know. There's just things where people have been in the buildings and sometimes like they've said that they hear things or they say that their camera went off or whatever, their phone went off, it was a weird noise, is this, is that. Okay. Lots of people do break into that building, to one of the buildings they do break into quite frequently, and every year I swear there's more graffiti on the roof, so clearly they are getting up there. I don't think it's safe because it's been closed for 30 years. So like you probably don't want to go in there. Like it is a building that has not been occupied, not updated, not anything in the last 30 years. So the likelihood of anything being bad in there, like just mold, any other damage to the floors, to the windows, to the walls, any of those things can, obviously be an issue. So not great. I have been on the property when it's been clear that like doors are open. It's still one of those things where I'm like, don't get tempted. Don't feel that you're safe in that building. Don't ever feel that you're safe in that it's not a building to be safe in. Okay. Like it's also been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years since I've been there, so I'm like, ooh, I don't know, please don't go. Also, I mean, history of abuse, like I can't, so after Seaside Sanitarium closed, lots of people went to Norwich State Hospital. Norwich State Hospital had been open for a long time. They had a plethora of things. I think they also had like a violent, mental health wing. So like they did have people who were violent who had stayed on the property, but currently, oh god, okay. So it's actually on two cities own that property. There's a clear divide. So there's like one part owned by Norwich, the other one owned by Preston, or vice versa, or whatever. So one half, and then there's the Jewish cemetery that's over there too. So like some people will be like, oh, we're gonna create an amusement park. Okay, but there's also a Jewish cemetery right there. Like you can't have the amusement park like you have to work around this Jewish cemetery that, okay, okay. It may never be opened as anything because of the ground contamination, because of laundry that they used to do on grounds. There's supposedly a roller skating rink. There might be a bowling alley. There were a lot of things that the people were able to do while they were there. And yeah, like it has, so I think the Norwich side, the Preston side, whichever side, there's one city who's been like, let's knock down buildings and look through the pipes. The pipes do go into a river, the Thames, or the Thames, compared, whichever one you're doing, the Thames River. So they do not know what's in those, and the environmental impact, I'm sure, is going to be so great. There was a developer about 10 years ago, bought the property for $1. Everyone was like, oh my god, I'd like to own this property for $1. And he's like, yeah, and we inherited all of this stuff where we have to carefully take out all of the hazardous material and find places that will accept it. It is not an easy task. It's a long process apparently, and they're like, we inherited a lot of issues with this property. Mohegan Sun is across the way. Foxwoods is probably like 10 or 15 minutes down the street. So, this would be a great place for something, but also it might never ever be anything because it possibly can't be. It probably will always be too hazardous to live. Like, is this, like, just think about that. Is that where you would want to live? Is that where you would want to raise kids? Oof. And then you have the other city owning the other properties, who are not doing anything, as far as I know. They're not knocking down buildings, they're not trying to sell the property, they're not trying to develop the property, and I think that there's like a nurse's quarters across the street or something. There's also these tunnels that have been filled in, possibly. Some people are still saying that they can get into them. So my spiritual self strongly believes that by knocking down the buildings, that a lot of spirits were released, which could be good or bad. A couple of places in the area, and I couldn't remember which ones they were. Wheeler House, Madonna Place, I can't remember. Had taken on people who had formerly lived at Norwich State Hospital, and these are the people who I feel the most for, because basically they were told, this is where you live, that's it. I don't even, depending, I'm guessing, on the patient, they might not have been outside, for years, forever. That's unfortunate and uncomfortable. And I just imagine that it's very frustrating, because let's say that someone has severe autism or whatnot, and their whole life has just been not being told how to live. Okay, they're here's your food, here's your clothes, here's I don't even know if they went out into the community to buy their own stuff. I don't know, that. It's just such a weird place to be, because it's I don't know the rules. Is that something that they could do? Is that something that was possible? I mean, the other thing is that there's really nothing around that. There's Mohegan, and there's the stuff around Mohegan, so I'm yeah, I guess Mohegan would be the closest. The people in that area have this thing with bridges, and so I'm but you'd have to go over the bridge. If you wanted to go, I guess you can go to Ledyard Center, which would be 15 minutes away, right? Because I guess so. It's actually kind of a long drive with nothing. There's nothing, And then what was the other thing? Where you can go up toward Norwich, which would be a different bridge, smaller bridge, but still there's not really there's not really shops in that area. Does that make sense? Because it's just oh well, if you go to Ledyard Center, it's CVS and a pizza place. in the nursery. You know, if you go up toward Norwich, it's the bars and restaurants and boating places. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. And then if you go towards Mohegan, now there's a Walmart over there, but I'm like, would you necessarily go all the way over there? Like, I don't, like, that'd be like 20 minutes away. Like, it's such like a, I mean, I guess it's an outing, but that depends on when that opened, you know, and it might not have been open before 1996 when they closed. So I don't know where, I don't know where they would go. Maybe out to the marina to have ice cream. It's one of those things where I'm like, well, would they go walk around Mohegan Park or something? I don't know. Hopefully you just walk around the you know, the very nice, beautiful area that's there. I don't know though. Like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, there are people who worked there who like talk about it, you know, kind of their experiences, but I think because of how much people want to know about, oh, but what were you do? But what was this? Was this happening? Was this happening? And you know, like, if it was happening, this is a big property. Okay, it's two cities own this property. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, if I was in like one place, I wouldn't necessarily know what's going on in the next place, you know, because like geez, like it's like a 15-minute walk over, you know. When I did my tour of that of the property, they put us on a bus. They were not about to like risk us, I guess, having like a, you know, whatchamacallit, like walking around the property, and probably for good reason because of all of the hazardous material. And I'm sure someone would have stolen a brick because they had a big bunch of bricks from one of the old buildings. So I'm like, ooh, yeah, people would have stolen bricks. Anyway, so, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, so I don't think that the people that were told much about any sort of life skills. Definitely not anything about having a job. Again, correct me if any of this is wrong, but I'm like, I don't think they did that. I think if you were stuck there, it was kind of like the psych hospital that I worked in. You were stuck there, like recirculated air, and, you know, we basically did everything for you so that you could relax. So, you know, kind of going on my experience, it's like, okay, well, maybe that was something that they also did there. You know, maybe it was different. You know, HIPAA hit in 1996, by the way, so I'm like, what did they do before HIPAA? I've heard some stories. Anyway, so these people now, not knowing how to like have a life outside of the institution, had to learn all these skills to not have the institution anymore. I don't remember if that institution had abuses. I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if they did, because, you know, it's kind of one of those, like, the bad apple spoils everyone. So, you know, it's very possible. Some of the people are still living in the area in the group homes, and I know when I interviewed for one of the places that was a group home in Norwich, they were saying, yes, some of these people are the people who were institutionalized at Norwich State Hospital. And I remember, like, someone came in and they were like, I need more money. And, you know, the staff was, like, trying to talk to them. Like, did you buy cigarettes for your friends again? Like, you can't continue to do this. And, like, it was one of those things where it's like, this person has no idea how to, like, have a friendship. Like, and I think the way that it was set up was that whatever group home it was, cannot remember whatsoever, they, like, had a, they had an apartment that they rented, basically, in this, like, big apartment building. And people would have to come to them to get meds at certain times. I think it was kind of like a supported living type of place where like they could help people, you know, kind of like learn some of the skills for like living on their own, which I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine? Like, you were told for how many years that you will not leave this place. Like, you have this understanding on some level that you won't leave this place, and then it's like, now you have a bed and a kitchen of your own. Buy sheets. Bye. You know, like, oh my God. So the reason that they did have to like hold the medicine was because some of it is, I want to say it's like Schedule 1 or something, like whatever schedule it is where it is, I don't know, highly addictive or whatever the schedule is, that like you can't, you have to lock it away. Schedule 1 narcotics or whatever. So like, they do still have to rely on staff. They still have some staff support. They have therapists in the area. They have all of this stuff, but they're living on their own. I feel like that's like such a tragic case. Like, and I know that like for a while people really like romanticize these places, and you know, I think especially with like Girl Interrupted coming out, it was like this whole thing about like, oh my God, it'd be so cool, wouldn't it? And it's like, no, it's not. You know, like they're just like it's not a great place. Like in the whole movie, right? Like, did they teach this girl how to like work outside? Did they teach her how to like live with bipolar? You know, like they basically taught her how to get around rules, right? And to like earn privileges, which you don't usually necessarily have as a full-grown adult, you know. Also, I think she was having an affair with someone who was married. Yeah, that was like part of the storyline. So like, you know, did they work on these things? Like, I know that she had her therapist who was like trying to help her out, but like, you know. And then I watched something. No, I read something, and it was so like I had to like throw it down. I was like, no, we're not doing this, because it was like, I live in this like really cool decrepit place, and I'm alone all the time, and I'm like, no, that's not how this goes. No, you don't just go running around, you know, the property as if like there's no consequences. Like, no, there's supervision a lot. Anyway, so yeah, like I think about these things, and I think about like, you know, there are some rumors about like institutions coming back, and I know that some of my clients have been threatened to like be institutionalized, or like, can I just go somewhere and like live there for a year? And it's like, no, they don't do that anymore. You can't do that. And it's for the better of everyone if you don't, because like we now, like, listen, society likes productivity, and like if you can provide some of that productivity, like being able to work in some regard, like you're able to contribute, right? Like to contribute to society. And so like if you can, as someone who has Down syndrome or autism, like maybe moderate, maybe severe, and you can like have a job, like that works, I think, you know, like you learn the rules, you learn when to break them, when the exception is, and then you go forward, you know. I don't think that it has to be as bad, you know, like I don't, those places weren't great. And like we can now be like, hey, life skills, here's what someone who has mild and moderate, you know, or mild, moderate is the next one, like autism can do. Oh, you just need to learn some sort of like, this is how people interact if they're neurotypical. Okay, can you explain that you might be not, you know, neurotypical, that you're neurodivergent? Okay, we now have words to understand this. Great, let's go. You know, and they have programs, and they have, you know, like things where I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. I am so glad that people are learning these things and not being told, I don't know, I don't think you can contribute to society, you should just be institutionalized, have someone make your meals, go to bed in the same sheets, whatever, you know, have fun, bye. I think that it's a very good thing. So the third place, Fairfield Hills. Fairfield Hills is revamping everything. They have turned into, some of them have turned into apartments. The old library is now New Asylum. It's like a bar restaurant. The last that I remember a couple of years ago. You know, like it's everything is beautiful there. It's very much alive and lively there, and I like there are still buildings that are vastly like just disintegrating. So I'm like, there might be some temptation. Don't go in, you know. But you know, they do still have some buildings set up that have not been renovated, or they won't ever renovate, or whatever other thing. But some of the buildings have been renovated, and more plans, I feel like, is always, it's fun to like be around people who know all the ins and outs, because then they can be like, oh well, that one used to be this one, and this one used to be that one used to, and that one's gonna be, you know, and it's like kind of cool to just be like, okay, you guys are in the know. I'm not in the know. So very interesting, very glad that like the properties are getting some renovations, some new life, some, you know, that it's not just going to be shut, I guess. I mean, again, with the Norwich property, I don't know what they're going to do with it. With Waterford, they always talk about stuff. They're like, oh, we're going to make these condos, and it's like, you do know that there's like houses in this area, and you don't even have it. Like, I can't imagine this place, because you're not going to have enough parking. And also, even though the buildings are like 2 or 3 like stories high, like, and kind of blocking some of the views like from some of the neighbors, like the neighbors' houses have been there since like probably the 1900s, maybe 1940s at the latest. And you're gonna do what? Block more of their view to have a super high? No, don't do it. I think as of right now, it is only a state park. And again, Norwich is up in the air, because I don't know if either of the cities are ever going to agree with what's going to happen with the property, and what the whatever is the northern part, maybe Norwich, like what, like the slight amount that's on that city line, they're not doing anything with it as far as I know. But I also haven't been up there for like, I don't know, 5 years. So like, if there are updates and you want to give them, make a video, give a little bit of a summary. But yes, there is a lot going on with those places, and like, again, there's like kind of a fear that they'll reopen, and I'm like, well, they're not reopening at those old places. Those old places have been abandoned, and like, I know from other government properties, looking at you in Groton, that like the government doesn't even want to update their own buildings. You think that they're gonna update those buildings? No. The state would have to really, really want to spend some money on that. I don't even know if I don't know. That just doesn't seem like good for the community. I think the community's kind of done with it. Also, just side note for Norwich, I always feel like Norwich has this energy of, if everyone left, we'd be really happy, and we'd like, and all of the trees would just consume everything. Like, all of the trees and like foliage just consume everything. And there's also some like old mill buildings up there that are like completely destroyed. And what's growing in all of the foliage, and probably some trees. Like, there's just these abandoned buildings up there that are like just half falling apart, you know? So, and what I've been told is basically removing any of the buildings is, I'm guessing especially the mill buildings, Jesus, would be so much money and like a lot, just a lot. Like some people in Connecticut like have like not great standing, like, what are those things called? Like sheds and everything, and like little like buildings on their property. They will not tear them down, like, because it's just like, oh, to get anyone in there, to get them removed properly, it's so expensive that they're like, just let it fall, just let it fall. That's like a weird thing in Connecticut, that they're just like, we're not going to deal with that. And it's like, oh, okay. Fairfield County, not so much. Fairfield County is like, those are out of date, knock them down. Yeah, but they might have been up there for like 20, 30, 40 years before the knock them down, it's fine, came through. Anyway, this has gone on long enough, and I hope that you lasted the entire time. Alright, so I will record another one because I do have time today, so we'll be good. Alright, I hope you enjoy your day, and I will talk with you soon. Thanks for liking and subscribing and sharing. It's always like really nice to like see good interaction. Alright, I'll talk to you soon.